Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user SuccessfulBunch369. Am I the a-hole for refusing to continue paying for my sister's rent after she went on a trip without telling me? My 28 female sister, 25 female, got laid off about 5 months ago. She's really struggled to find another job in her field since then, as it's really bad for her field out there right now, and people are being laid off left and right. She's currently working as a waitress while she looks for a more permanent job, but isn't earning enough to fully cover her rent. I have a pretty well-paying job and I share rent with my partner. So I offered to help her cover the rent while she looks for another job. She was extremely grateful. Together, we agreed on an amount which would allow her to cover rent and also have some money left over for food, travel, etc. It's important to note that her monthly expenses for food, travel, bills, etc. were all provided by her. I didn't have any issues or suspect that anything was amiss. She hates working as a waitress, so I was confident that she was doing everything in her power to find another job. The last time I saw her, she mentioned that she has picked up a few extra shifts recently so that she can afford to get our parents a nice anniversary gift. Because of what she said, I figured she was basically living paycheck to paycheck. Fast forward to now, and I've just received word from our cousin that my sister is in Paris. When I expressed confusion, my cousin sent me a bunch of screenshots from my sister's Instagram feed. My sister must have blocked me and my parents on there because none of us could see any of her posts or stories. I was very confused, then angry, because if she is living paycheck to paycheck, how on earth can she afford to go on a trip to Europe? For context, we live in Australia and plane tickets typically cost upwards of $1,000, and that's not accounting for food, hotels, or anything else. I was so pissed that not only has she gone on an expensive trip, she clearly tried to hide it from me. I ended up sending her a few short messages, basically saying that I knew she was in Europe and that clearly she doesn't need my help paying rent anymore if she can afford a big trip. She called me and was basically in tears, begging me not to cut her off. She said that she is on the trip with her new boyfriend and that he is paying for everything. She insisted that she still needs the money to cover her rent and that she will have to move if I don't help her. I basically told her that it was her problem now and hung up, which I admit was childish of me, but I was still so mad. I don't know much about her new boyfriend, so maybe he is a millionaire or something, but the fact that she tried to hide it from me sets off alarm bells. I'll obviously have a proper discussion with her when she gets back, but for now, I'm going to block her number. Since then, she has reached out to some other family members who think I'm being too harsh and should give her the benefit of the doubt. They all seem to think I'm going to force her to be out on the streets. It's looking like this will be a whole fiasco once she gets back. I need an outside opinion. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, personally, no, I don't think you're the a-hole. I think this is the problem with basically lying. Once you get caught in a lie, either by hiding something or by outright lying, then everything else comes into question. Was she really saving up to give your parents a gift? Does the boyfriend actually exist? Did the boyfriend actually pay for anything, or was she just kinda scamming you and saving money for a trip? She blocked you and your parents for one particular reason. She didn't want you to know. And why wouldn't she want you to know that her boyfriend invited her to Paris? Why would you be upset about that? What's the problem with coming to you and telling you that her boyfriend invited her to Paris and he's paying for anything, or sharing that with you? Did she think you would say, well, then I'm definitely not paying for your rent anymore? Like, those two things don't track in my opinion. So to me, it's not an issue that she went on a trip to Paris. To me, it's the fact that she hid it on purpose and blocked you because she didn't want you to find out. That's really sketchy behavior, and I wouldn't feel comfortable lending money who behaves in a sketchy way. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. MD Thomas says, quote, "She said that she is on the trip with her new boyfriend and that he is paying for everything." End quote. So assuming this is true, two questions come to mind. One, why is her boyfriend not helping her with rent? That vacation money could cover rent while she continues to look for a job. Two, she's unemployed and needs help with rent. Even if the boyfriend is paying for everything, why would she go on vacation? It makes no sense either way. Not the a-hole. Celtic Muse Books says, if this was just a case of her new boyfriend taking her on a trip to Paris and paying for everything, why didn't she tell you in advance? And why did she block you on social media? Also, as someone from the US who spends most summers in Europe, I'm an artist and we go for 5 or 6 weeks so I can paint, so we're not ritzy rich, lol. We had to sit out Paris this year because everything was booked long ago for the Olympics. For example, the apartment we've rented several times is 5 times the rent we usually pay, so this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment trip. It would have been booked some time ago. The relatives who think you're too harsh should put their money where their mouths are and pony up a few months of your sister's rent. Not the a-hole. Your sister can move in with your parents or her rich boyfriend instead of mooching off of you and your husband. And Scenarioing says, quote, "She said that she is on the trip with her new boyfriend and that he is paying for everything." End quote. Then there was no need to block you. She also has a wealthy boyfriend who can help her or she can check up with him. Quote, "She has reached out to some other family members who think I'm being too harsh and should give her the benefit of the doubt." End quote. Tell them if they are so confident despite her blocking you and are concerned they can help pitch in. You know how that will go. It's all well and good if it's your money, not the a-hole. So, the majority of the community said that OP was not the a-hole, and they added that if the boyfriend was so wealthy and was paying for Paris trips, then he should be the one helping her out with rent or that she could move in with him. And that's where I disagree with the community because OP said it was a new boyfriend. So I can't say how long the relationship is because I don't know, but if it's a new boyfriend, then I would assume it's not a long enough relationship to expect him to help her out that way. Anyways, OP did not reply to any comments, so we move on straight to the update to see how the story ends. I decided that at the very least, I should let my sister explain herself. So I rang her again after I had calmed down. She said that the trip was a very last-minute thing and that her boyfriend was already going to Europe and he offered to pay for her plane ticket so she could come along with him and she felt that it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. When I asked her about other expenses, she told me that he was mostly paying for everything and she only had to contribute a small amount. When I asked her where she got the money for that, she got kind of defensive and said that she had saved some money while working as a waitress and that it wasn't fair that I was judging her for just trying to have a break and that's why she didn't tell me. I did bring up that he could help pay her rent, but she said that they hadn't been dating for that long and she doesn't feel comfortable asking him. I think he comes from a quite well-off family and she doesn't want to come across like a gold digger. I do get this. I think it would be weird to ask someone you hadn't known for that long. I do believe her for the most part, but I'm still pissed that she didn't tell me and that she clearly did have some money saved that could have been used to contribute to rent. I'm also pretty convinced that the money she said would go towards a gift for our parents also got spent on this trip, which feels a bit scummy. I did stand my ground about no longer paying her rent, but I did agree to discuss it again once she got back. However, I will definitely ask to see her bank statements before I give her a cent more. And if it turns out she has been scamming me, then not only will I not give her any more money, but I will make her pay back what I loaned her. Well, OP, you gave your sister a chance to explain and you even confronted her about the boyfriend not helping with the rent and taking her out on trips. I do agree with your sister's logic as to not wanting to ask for his help, but I think your sister managed this whole situation poorly. And of course, I still agree with you not wanting to help your sister out until this whole thing is properly addressed and cleared. Hopefully though, this thing won't ruin your sister relationship. So on that note, here's wishing you both the best in the future. Thanks so much for sharing, OP, and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user TraditionalPut6216. Am I the a-hole for telling a group of women to leave my son's hospital room so I could dress him in private? My 9-year-old son, Lauren, had his appendix removed this morning. He had a basic understanding of the surgery, but the only hang-up he had was having to wear nothing but a hospital gown. No socks or underwear. When we got to the hospital room to get him prepped, he told his mom, my ex, and her sister, his aunt, to turn or to leave when he had to undress. Obviously, he was fine with me being there and needed help. After the surgery, me, my ex, her sister, her 13-year-old niece, and my 18-year-old son were in the recovery room. We were waiting for Lauren to sober up and get discharged. He started to come to and whispered to me that he wanted to put clothes on because he wasn't comfortable wearing nothing but a gown in front of 3 girls. At the same time, a female nurse came in to get his vitals and was talking to my ex. I asked if they could all step outside so I could help Lauren get dressed. They looked bewildered at my request. The nurse then said that she'd help me dress him because my son was still a bit weak. I said, no thanks, my teen son will help out. She asked if I was serious by asking her to leave over this, and I said yes, my son doesn't feel comfortable getting dressed in front of 4 females. The nurse said she's been a nurse for years and has never heard of anything this crass. I said, you're comfortable, my son isn't, and you're being insensitive, it's what's crass and clueless. Ex said I was being dramatic. Anyway, they left and me and my other son got him dressed. My ex later called me and said that I owe her and everyone else an apology. I refused. I said if the roles were reversed, then you'd have a very different opinion. Also, Lauren has to take a bath for the next few days, and she was crazy if she was expecting Lauren to let her wash him or even be in the bathroom with him. It's different with me or his brother or friends, and I don't have to convince her for me to be right. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole, and I think you're absolutely right. Your son simply wanted to get dressed and he wanted to do it in private, with your help. If he doesn't want to be naked in front of any woman, regardless of their profession or their relationship to him, then he doesn't have to, and you asking them to leave to protect his privacy was the right thing to do. If they got offended, well then that's on them. You don't owe anybody an apology. Your ex-wife is way out of line, and you are absolutely right. If the roles were reversed, I think she'd have a very different opinion. And what is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Poncoso says, not the a-hole. Children too have the right to respect for their modesty from an early age. What's more, 9-year-old is an age when children definitely don't feel like changing in front of a bunch of spectators. This nurse was very unprofessional. As a healthcare professional, she had to be made aware of the need to respect patients' modesty. This child was not alone. You were there to help him, so her presence was not necessary. Thank goodness you were there to be your son's voice. I really don't understand the reaction of those in the room. If I'd been there, I'd have been uncomfortable violating the privacy of a 9-year-old child, and I'd have immediately left. Your request was perfectly reasonable, and your son's privacy is very important. Continue to protect him. Forget Regret One Day says, that nurse was 100% out of line, and I'd personally say something to the facility about her unprofessional attitude. She needs to learn some empathy for her patients, regardless of their age. Your son was very clear in what made him uncomfortable, and there was no reason for her to question you as his parent and make that snotty comment. I'm just baffled that your ex and all the other females in that room thought it was appropriate for them to stay in a place where a 9-year-old boy was dressing. He deserves the same respect for his privacy as any adult, and damn Skippy they'd be shooing any males out if he was a girl. I'm a mom to 2 sons, and it's boy mom 101 at that age that they want their dad, another male, if they need help. That whole bunch of them should be ashamed of themselves. I hope your son is healing well and not the a-hole. 6 Hour Power 320 says, not the a-hole. Your son has every right to have people respecting his wishes. Your ex, the aunt, the registered nurse, and anyone else that has a problem with this are clueless. You are 100% correct. If it were a mother asking the father or uncle to leave the room for a female child, they'd fully expect you to get off your duff and get the hell out of the room as soon as possible without asking any questions. As a parent of a 10-year-old, I respect my child's request for me to not be in the room when they shower. If they need me, they can yell for me. It's a small sign of respect that everyone deserves. And Anubis Pineapple says, everybody sucks here. No, you're not the a-hole for responding to your son's request. And yes, the nurse in that moment should not make you feel bad for honoring his request. But bathing and physically caring for your son while he's in the hospital and medically fragile is literally that nurse's job. Seeing and caring for his sometimes naked body is her job. It gives her the opportunity to witness his level of comfort and mobility and check for any signs of infection, bruising, etc. Let her do her job. And Opie responds, you don't need to be a female to do that. Opie's edit. For the record, the gown he was wearing was made out of paper. It wasn't even cloth. My son was dying to get out of it. He was basically naked. I don't think my son would have minded a male nurse at all, but since me and my older son were there, the thought of requesting a male nurse didn't cross my mind. I don't know if they had a male nurse available at that moment because the nurse made a comment that they were short-staffed but all qualified. I wasn't going to argue with her over who got to put on my son's Minecraft underwear or zipped his hoodie. It's a waste of my time. She did mention how she didn't want him to get hurt with my dressing him, and I said, then you best let me handle it because he'll fight you. Alright, well, the majority of the community said that OP was not the a-hole and he was in the right to defend his son's privacy. I absolutely agree with that, although we did get some pushback from some people who were saying everybody sucks here. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. I did have to take him back to the hospital this morning because he couldn't pee but had to. He was in a lot of pain. At the hospital, I asked if a nurse was going to see my son before or after his male doctor, and they said yes. I asked for a male, and they said they'd ask the head nurse. She asked why it was so important to have a male nurse. I told her we can't schedule an appointment to fight over it after my son sees the doctor. They did find a male nurse, and my son was totally relaxed around him. The male nurse said a lot of female nurses take it personal when patients ask for a male nurse, and it's always been that way. Fortunately, my son didn't need a catheter and is fine. Well, OP, I think it's great that even though you did get a little bit of pushback, the hospital was able to accommodate your son and he was relaxed for what he needed to do. So again, good for you for protecting his privacy. Thanks for sharing, OP, and take care. And now, let's finish this video with a quick mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user GoNuts27. Can't carry over one personal time off day? See you in February. I worked for a 24-hour news organization, so someone needs to be in the studio at all times. As a staff monkey, I had things like personal time off and vacation time, which I usually didn't use too often, but we were allowed to carry over 5 unused days each year, as long as we used those days in the first quarter of the following year. However, the end of the year is in high demand for off time because most people needed to burn unused vacation time they couldn't carry over. Management wisely makes sure everyone knows the policies and schedules December well in advance so there aren't any last-minute coverage issues around the holidays. Since I didn't use a lot of my personal time off during the year, I generally used it in the week between Christmas and New Year's and took about 10 days off around then. One particular year, I had 6 days left, 1 extra day. But since I already took off the time between Christmas and New Year's already, there literally wasn't a day left for me to use as a day off. So no one was left to cover a shift if I were to take off. I went to the scheduler and management and asked for either a one-time exception to carry over the extra day and I'd take it on the 2nd of January, extending off time by 1 day. No go, I didn't do it with the required notice. Or pay me 1 day's wages for the unused time. Also a hard no-go. Here's the malicious compliance. Since I had so much built up personal time off due to working holidays or comp time for overtime work, I had a ton of other days banked. Combining my already booked holiday break with my 5 carryover days and the 10 new ones I got for the new year, plus some holidays that come in the early part of the year, I figured I was able to take enough time that I would leave for my Christmas break on December 24th and not return until the last week of February, nearly March. And since I did it with enough notice, they couldn't deny me. They now had to cover about 2 months of my shifts. The next day, I put my time off in the system and emailed the scheduler a note saying, "Have a great holiday and I will see you in March." The following day, I received a call from the VP of the department asking me what they need to do. I said simple, "Let me carry over my extra day. I will use it on January 2nd. You have almost a month to cover one shift and we're all good." I got the carryover day and used it. Nicely done, OP. You used their rules to leverage them into getting your day. Thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.